Hello and welcome to Victoriana. It's actually the middle of August, so we're a bit late with our August clip, and we're actually at home today as well. It's a Sunday. July was a bit of a sweat for us. The weather was just full on hot. We got behind with everything, and one of the things that we've really got behind on is our own veg garden, which obviously has to come really low in the ranks of keeping everything alive and keeping on top of work at the nursery. So today we're having a bit of a hit on the pumpkin patch, which is full of pumpkins and squashes and everything, but obviously also full of weeds. And our own garden, our own veg garden, is a bit of a jungle as well, but hopefully a few days we get on top of it as we can fit it in. And we thought we were keeping on top of the squashes as well, and then you go and find something like this, which obviously is going to take a few days to eat, but I guess that's what gardening is all about. And even when you can't keep on top of everything, the plants will try and keep on top of themselves and look after themselves. And yeah, I mean, certainly with pumpkins and squashes we haven't got an awful lot of problem here in their neglect. But I'll take you and give you a quick run around the nursery and show you what we've actually been up to in July and in the beginning of August. We had planned to do this clip last week at our tomato day, which was fantastically successful. But once again it was that successful, and we saw so many people all day that we didn't have time to get around to doing our clips then either. So yeah, here's what we've been up to. So I'll start where we planned to actually do the clip from last week, which is in the tomato and veg tunnel and chilies obviously. And this is the one area that's really benefited from the warm July. You may remember earlier in the year we were moaning like everyone else about how behind everything was, how the tomatoes were so slow, how the chilies were so small. But yeah, the warm July and beginning of August has brought everything on leaps and bounds. The chilies are up to their usual 3 or 4 feet tall. Lots and lots of fruit now. Not much heat in it yet. But that we'd expect, and that's obviously why we have our chili day in September, so that and late September at that, so that obviously the fruit has had time to heat up properly and develop its full flavours. That's the whole point of having a tasting day, to know what you're actually going to be tasting. But no, we're really pleased with everything in here, and as I say, last week for our tomato day we had probably the most varieties ripe and ready for tasting that we've ever had, and that all comes down to the warm July. Out here on the veg garden, I think we're just basically really pleased. Peas this year have been a bit disappointing, the climbing peas. I think it was because it was cold earlier on and then came out very warm, so they didn't really get a chance to put on their full growth. Did struggle to keep everything moist as well obviously, but no, basically we're very pleased out here. We'll be lifting the spuds next week I think, and got some new crops of beans and bits and pieces coming along. The onions, which are over there somewhere, are starting to bulk up very nicely. Brassicas way over there in the cage. Probably the best brassicas we've grown this year, which very impressed with those. But yeah, so really again that warm July has really brought everything on, and we're fortunate that we've been able to keep everything pretty much watered. So apart from a little bit of disappointment with the climbing peas, actually really pleased and happy out here. Out here on the beds, it's a little bit more of a mixed bag. As I say, we've struggled with watering, and we actually reckon that through July we were spending something like 65 to 70 man hours a week on watering, which has meant other jobs of tidying up, pruning, etc. have slowed down and taken second place. But we've got through all the tree fruit, that's all pruned, all the potted tree fruit has all been pruned back. Most of the beds are quite tidy now. We need to get through soft fruits. They need a prune and a tidy up, and obviously because they've been drowned every day, some of them are looking a bit more sad than we'd expect. But generally we're quite tidy out here, and if we do get a lull in the weather, we'll actually start to get back on top of some of these jobs and start thinking about having our tidy up before the autumn. Down here in the flower garden, it really has been a riot of colour right through. very pleased. The arbour that Simon put in, the grape's gone absolutely mad and needs some tying in. We've struggled again now and again with the weeds down here, obviously because of the watering situation, and watering's more important than weeding, but it really has been a right of colour right through. Still looking very pretty now. Obviously one or two things have succumbed a little bit with the excess heat, so we've got a few gaps, and things like the poppies we've pulled out and saved the seed now, but no, very pleased, and good idea it was to extend it, and it's really worked well this year. So here in the bubble, we're still pretty chocker, thinking about the autumn and potting up things like prims, etc. But we're also sowing. So this is a batch of Heath Pearlwort lawn here, which we've direct sown. That's not on heat, but it's quite funny really to think that, you know, a couple of weeks ago we were moaning about the heat and the constant temperatures, but this week we've had to actually put the heat back onto one of the prop beds because things we're producing for the autumn and next spring, we're finding we're a bit slower than we expected, and that's because nighttime temperatures are down now. So yeah, we've had to put the heat back on. So I guess that's the whole thing with horticulture, isn't it? That you never can be 100% happy and always want something to be slightly different. But no, so we're chocker in here. The fuchsias are doing well. Haven't enjoyed the high heat and obviously the lots of water that they've had to have, but they're looking very colourful, and all in all not too bad at all. So yeah, very pleased in here indeed. So out here in the cellar area, as you'd expect, we're pretty chocker. Lots and lots of perennials for this year and also for next, and things like some nice forget-me-nots and wallflowers, which is a new one for us for this year stroke next. Haven't grown them for a long time, but we've got some nice batches of wallflowers. Obviously they're in the cage down there because Mr. Pigeon likes those quite a lot. But no, we're pretty chocker out here, and everything's growing away quite nicely, and very pleased indeed. So I'll finish off out here in our orchard, which obviously was a new addition for us this year, and very pleased with how it's establishing. Haven't got a single miss on the trees, which we didn't really expect to, but we haven't kept up with the grass as much as we'd like to, and we'd hoped to actually get it flint picked off so that we could run a mower over it, but that all comes back to that time in July that we just didn't have. But no, very pleased out here. Everything's growing away nicely, quite a lot of fruit, which is a bonus, and we always say in the first year with our trees, if you do get fruit, it's a bonus, and we certainly have. But one thing that we are going to miss out on this year, I think, will be getting the vineyard in, not because it's the wrong time or because we ought to give up on planting grapes, but just because we're physically not going to get the time to do it with everything else we've got scheduled between now and sort of November, December. So that's a project for next year, but never mind. And yeah, that's it really for the month, and hopefully we'll be a bit more early with our September clip, and we'll show you where we are with everything then.